So here's a little picture I whipped up quite some time ago of old Sanji, and certainly if you like this type of drawing and more like it, remember to follow me on the Google+, the Instagram, the Facebook, and even the Twitter.
One Piece, Chapter 189, 2.
Wait, 2, are you sure?
Yes, 2. That is all.
I like this stuff. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the excellent and epically written and really honorable tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw the main focus being on the battle between Sanji and Mr. Two Bone Clay. And it's kind of funny because when he was introduced and then he met the Straw Hats not knowing who they were, 30, 40 chapters ago, and then he left and he was like, oh, friend, and he made that whole thing about how friendship, even if you've just met, you can tell when you're good, friendship and it's stronger than all else. And my prediction was that at some point, Mr. Two would wind up maybe helping them, becoming good, turning against his masters type of thing. Now, I still don't know if that's going to happen, of course, but after this chapter, I definitely think that my prediction is a little bit closer to becoming an actual reality. So, of course, in the last chapter, at the end, Sanji was able to, get him to touch his left cheek to turn back into himself, and he was able to nail him with, basically like a finishing type move, and that's where the chapter left off. That's right where this one picks up. They wind up, they're just attacking each other, and I mean just going at it really, really hot and heavy is the only way to put it. So it's really kind of cool because Sanji goes and he's coming at him and he's taking him out with several moves, but Bone Clay is still countering. I mean, he's still countering and he's still attacking and he's still landing some hits on Sanji, it looks like. And this goes on for several pages, right? And then they kind of both come at each other with like this ultimate move, the Swan Bombardier and the Coup de Colle, whatever, because he uses all these different French words. I forget exactly what it is. And they both come together in like this just awesome Clash of the Titans type deal, right? And it's kind of funny I say Clash of the Titans because Sanji, when he does his kicks, his legs are drawn to be elongated, so he almost looks like Goofy, like he's like a clown on stilts or something like that. So it almost doesn't look realistic. And Mr. Two Bone Clay is just a funny drawn character. He really just looks like, again, somebody that escaped the mental institution or someone that got off their meds. So Uncle Larry is off his meds again. Go on, get him back in the house. So they come at each other with these final moves or whatever, and they're and these two titans collide, and then they wind up being on the other side, opposite sides of each other, and you see Bone Clay, and he's just sitting there, and then you see Sanji, and it looks like Sanji's about to fall, man. He's just like, and then they wind up going and I think attacking one more time or trying to one more time, and finally Bone Clay just has nothing, and he just hits the ground, right? And Sanji goes and he's just like, and then Bone Clay's just like, I give up, and you can tell he's just messed up, man, blood in his mouth and everything else. And Sanji goes and he's like, so this is different than a lot of the fights that we see where, the enemy is just knocked out, just completely knocked the funk out. And so Bone Clay is laying there, saying, I give up. And Sanji's like, really? Are you kidding me? He's like, all you have to do, so I can't, is turn into Nami, and then I wouldn't be able to finish you off, right? And he's like, no, it's fine. Who are you kidding anyway? He's like, I got nothing left. So then he goes and he says, just take me out, finish me off. He goes, the organization will do it anyway for my failure, so just finish me off, right? So Sanji goes and in what I thought was a really cool testament to just having honor and just being an honorable person is he goes and reaches for his hand and says, hey, it was a good fight. He does go and take Usopp's goggles. That guy, I'll take Usopp's goggles back and whatnot. But it's kind of a respect type thing, and it's kind of funny too, and almost cute, I guess, and endearing, because Mr. Two goes and you see him talking to himself, and he's like, I can't believe, that basically I can't believe that he has this honor, And then he goes and he says, he says in his head, he's like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry, So it's kind of funny because then Mr. Two, and then Sanji goes and walks away after he takes the goggles and stuff. And then Mr. Two goes, okay, so you are going to leave me for dead, or you are going to finish me off. And I don't know if that was basically meant because of like, hey, now we're friends and now you're just going to take off. You came into my life and now you're walking out. Or if it's more of like, okay, well now the organization's going to have me killed. So either way, you sentence me to death. But my point was, and the thing that I liked about it was that Sanji was not willing to do it by his hand, and he obviously had respect for his opponent, and the fight that they had. And as Sanji's walking away, he's like, he's still got that damn smoke hanging out of his mouth, and he's just He's just like, and who knows, maybe Mr. Two liked his little curly Q eyebrow, I have no idea. But, as he's walking away, he's got a smoke hanging out his mouth. He's like, oh, I got some more broken bones, like it's nothing, Now, I have broke very few bones in my body, and but I can tell you, they're painful. They don't, it doesn't feel comfortable. So it's a testament to Sanji and obviously his strength, So then we go and we see, and then the next portion of the chapter is at the palace, and they're setting these explosives to blow the palace up, and Chaka is still questioning Vivi because he's kind of like, I have no idea what your deal is with this and what you want to do. And then Chaka goes and he's like, yeah, Vivi, while you were away for 2 years, you came back and you've grown into a great princess and a beautiful woman. And I'm like, is he hitting on Vivi? And then he's like, after this is all over, and she's like, we're going to have a celebration for those pirates. And she thinks about all Luffy wanted to kick Crocodile's butt after he did so was to be fed until he could not move anymore, or until he burst. So it's kind of a funny exchange there. And as I said, they're kind of setting all the explosives and getting ready, even though they don't know what the deal is with Princess Vivi. And she commends Chaka too. She says, listen, you did a great job here. You did the only thing you could do in the absence of the king, and without Igaram being here for the last 2 years to obviously guide you and everything else. You did a wonderful job. She gives him the pat on the back, and she's like, you did the only thing you could do fighting back against the rebels. I mean, you couldn't just let them come in and kill people and whatnot and take over the city. So, she says you made a tough decision, obviously, and she respects him for that. So then, you get one of the palace guards or something. It's just like, oh, no, I can't believe it. And he's kind of like stuttering and everything else. And then you go and you see in the next panel, old Sir Crocodile, man. And, I lovingly refer to a lot of these characters as like they remind me of like a dick with eyes, because when you see him, you're just so angry, man. You just want to punch him, And he goes and he comes in and he's like, and Mr. Big Shot over there with his slicked back hair and stuff, and then whatever fucking, he's got his Frankenstein look going across his head and his hook and everything else. And he comes in and he's just like, oh, you're not going to take down this, this is going to be my new home, and you're not going to blow up my new home. And just basically his monologuing about being evil and how he's going to go and take over take over everything, and how this palace is going to be perfect so he can look at his minions, from up above, all his subordinates, all the people that are like fleas or ants to him, right? Like insects, I should say. So we get that, that whole shocker over there. And then, of course, Vivi is upset about that and angered. And, I think she's going to try to come at him. And it looks like, and I'm sure Lord Chaka is going to try to attack him as well. But, he took out Luffy and wiped his ass with him like it was nothing. So I don't see much resistance coming from that over there. And hopefully somebody will be able to get to, the palace, because we haven't seen Luffy now in, I don't know, like 10 chapters. So, we know that he's alive. We know that he's with Pell. We hope that Pell is actually, bringing him to the palace and getting him some meat to recover or whatever he's going to need. So, but so that's that portion of the chapter. The last portion of the chapter, we are then taken to the north or northwest quadrant of Alubarna, and we see and it's the battle between Zoro and Zoro and Nami against Miss Doublefinger and Mr. One. And again, we haven't really seen the full extent of their powers. We haven't really seen much of anything of their powers. We just know that they're pretty low on the list over there, meaning that they're high ranking. So, Zoro's looking around and he's like, where the hell is that girl? I told her to this and that. And then he goes to tell a couple of the ducks from the duck squadron to look out for her or whatever. And then he goes and he looks over and he's like, there she is. And he sees Nami and she's running. And I have no idea where she's running to or from or what she's doing. But behind her is Mr. One and Miss Doublefinger. And, they go and they talk amongst themselves and agree that the best way to go and to defeat opponents is to go and to destroy the weakest one first, So they basically make it known that they're going to go after Nami, looking at her as the weaker one. So that's certainly the beginning. And that's how the chapter ends, is that we just see that the battle between them is going to heat up over here and obviously take place over the next few chapters, as well as probably sprinkling in some stuff in the palace with Sir Crocodile, and then hopefully we eventually get back to Chopper and and Usopp to see what his condition is. So, but ultimately, I think my chapter question is, how do you feel about the main character, Luffy, not being seen now for about 10 chapters, Now, for me, it's not a big deal because these volumes are already out, right? But for those of you that have been long-standing fans of the series and you have to wait a week and then another week for, 20 or 22 pages of a new chapter, and you don't see you think about this, over 10, 12 weeks, you're talking months, you know what I mean? You're talking like an entire season of reading, and you don't see who you consider to kind of be the main character or the main character of the story. So, and again, I'm not for or against it, and especially because at this point I still know I have hundreds of chapters ahead of me that I can go, so I can always just keep reading, and he's going to show up eventually. But how do you feel about that? Because I'm sure that even in present times that happens, at chapter 7, 20, whatever, 8, 9, whatever it's on, I'm sure that happens where a main character is not seen for literally months, and even though these are coming out, week after week, I think it's, I just really kind of want to get your opinion, brothers and sisters, and weigh in on what you think about that. Because that's something that really didn't, going back to my comic book days and the once a month coming out, that never really happened too much. You might have an issue where you didn't see much of a main character, but if it was Spider-Man's comic, you saw Spider-Man almost every chapter. So that's really all. And I know that this is called One Piece. It's not called the Luffy Show, but that's my question. What do you think about the main character of a manga, in this particular manga, not being seen for several chapters? Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
Join us. That is all.
The fuck?